Moving the needle on founder failure, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Lucas Poles, and welcome to Startup 2.0 by Spark XYZ. Join us each week as we give you access to some of the top investors and entrepreneurs around the country to help you think through and overcome some of the top challenges that startups face.
I think there's no better place in the country to be investing than Los Angeles.
What is the problem that you're solving and for who? Like, what is that specific pain point?
Sometimes when a company is not listening to its customers and just thinks it knows better than its customers, has a really, really hard time finding product market fit.
I want to see somebody that isn't going to stop. You know, this person, you just feel like they're gonna make it work.
Big heartfelt thank you to Brex, who without their support, this show would not be possible. We've seen firsthand the difficulties accessing basic corporate credit without providing a security deposit or personal guarantee early on. As companies grow, managing expenses has become more difficult and time consuming, which is why we've partnered with Brex to offer a corporate credit card that is not personally guaranteed, offers higher credit limits, provides auto reconciliation, and integrates with ERPs using receipt capture. Brex is the credit card of the startup ecosystem, and we highly encourage you to check them out.
Andrea, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Lucas. Thank you for having me.
Really exciting to have you on. Really looking forward to finding out more about the new Accelerator in Long Beach. Wild that you started an Accelerator in the middle of COVID, so hats off to you. But let's dive into it. Why don't you start off by giving us a quick high-level overview of the Long Beach Accelerator?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what better time really to start an accelerator, actually. We need to create a lot of economic resilience and get ourselves out of this economic downturn. So accelerators can be a big piece of that. So we're excited to do that right now, particularly. And because of who we are and where we're located, we focus on pre-seed stage companies in places industries and sectors that is health tech, supply chain and logistics, and blue tech, green tech and clean tech, ed tech, and cybersecurity. And we do consider other sectors and industries, but we need to make sure, obviously, that we have access to those resources. We really want to add a lot of value to the companies that come in, obviously, and so, you know, we're a lot of high tech B2B, but we definitely have other resources that we can bring in and help grow these companies.
Nice, super exciting. Yeah, you're very much right. We're going to need a lot of help to get through the current market turbulence. And out of all the typical startups, generally some of the most successful ones are actually born in the middle of I don't know, chaos or market recession. So definitely hats off to you. So let's walk through it. So what kind of is your investment thesis? What are you kind of looking for portfolio companies? Who's your kind of bread and butter?
Yeah, we're a new accelerator. Our first cohort is starting in February 2021. The application process is open right now as we speak. But our investment thesis is still a bit in development, but the big themes are really the industries that we just talked about. We're also really diving into underrepresented founders and giving individualized attention. And then we have a focus on building relationships for our startups that turn into customers. Nice,
very exciting. Cool. So, how did you guys end up starting? I mean, it's a general question of you launched now, but when did the plan start coming into effect, and what made Long Beach itself want to kind of jump into this arena?
Yeah, this is something like this doesn't come together overnight, but a lot of times it does come together with some stars aligning, right? And some fortuitous meetings between people, and that's definitely the case here. In 2015, the city of Long Beach drafted their economic blueprint, which identified some great assets in the city of Long Beach, including its globally important tech industries, the engineering workforce, the excellent lifestyle that we all know about here in Southern California, proximity and access to all of Southern California and the global markets that we have here, and importantly for Southern California, affordability. Then they also identified some gaps in the startup ecosystem here, including an accelerator. So a few people that I mentioned, John Kiesler of the Economic Development Department in the city of Long Beach, Wade Martin at Cal State Long Beach, and John Shen of Sunstone Management, which is a local VC firm, formed a collaboration and then started up a separate nonprofit entity, which became the Long Beach Accelerator. So we have a public-private academic partnership that leverages all of those assets to fill a crucial part of the startup ecosystem.
Nice. No, that's great. And filling in a gap, especially at the early stage, I think helps entrepreneurs really take it to the next level. A lot of them have challenges kind of starting out, and so being able to add in that expertise and provide filling that gap is definitely a worthwhile cause. So let's walk through a little bit about due diligence. So new accelerator, so probably you've had investment experience before, founded yourself. Let's walk through maybe some of the red flags that stand out when looking at applications.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I have a seed stage investment fintech startup that I've been co-founding for the last couple of years, and a lot of experience in terms of selection committee processes and things like that. But we're still new, and so yeah, we are still building out what our process is, and we'll be learning as we go about what types of companies apply, how we can best serve them, and then creating efficiencies. But generally, we're looking for companies that are ready to build a beta with an idea we believe in, we think we can add value to, most importantly, a founder or founder team that is resilient and learns quickly.
Awesome.
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
type of teams are you looking for? So I know that you're looking for underrepresented founders. Are you willing to take maybe a single founder? Does it need to be co-founders at the early stage?
Yeah.
Let's dive into some of the details.
Yeah, we're definitely willing to take on single founders. We think that we think a couple of things about that. One is that if we're really serious about tapping into underrepresented founders, their network might be smaller than others, and if we're expecting them to come in with full team, that would be a barrier to entry that might not be necessary to throw up when hopefully we'll be able to help them with some of those some of that access, and perhaps even help tap into some co-founders. So those we're focused on not putting up barriers that are unnecessary and that could inadvertently sort of shoot ourselves in the foot in achieving our diversity goals.
Mm-hmm. No, that's honestly, that's a very good point. And a lot of people don't think about the unintentional barriers that exist within entrepreneurship, and so being conscious of that, I think, is a very hats off to you, honestly, for thinking it through. What about a team that does come in? What if they're missing a couple pieces? Maybe the team is a little more homogeneous than you would like. What is that a big red flag, or is it something that it's like, hey, it's something that maybe we can work with to find you those couple of the pieces or those additional gaps?
Yeah, I think our accelerator is definitely focused on the earlier end of acceleration, and so we, again, still developing an investment thesis and a little bit of trial and error as we go, but we want to provide value where value is most helpful. With it being a public-private academic partnership, the academic piece is important, and helps us think about things in the way that you don't know what you don't know. How do you build a company with all of the infinite number of things that you need to know to build a tech company, until somebody sort of shows you and offers you the opportunity to gain that knowledge. And so we are, again, we don't think anything is going to change if we don't kind of pull out those diamonds in the rough and enable everyone to have access to learning about how to build a tech business.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it's awesome. So instead of maybe some of the red flags, like what is kind of your perfect company? Like what would make someone really stand out where you're like, wow, like I want to write a check to you?
Yeah, I think it's about creating a connection. There are many great ideas that don't make it as a business, and likewise there are initially marginal ideas that with the right adjustments do. So what we want to see is that resilience, humanity, flexibility, and a bit of an obsession. And those are the ways that you can stand out as an applicant and create that connection and help us understand that you as a founder or founding team understand that anything can happen in startup world, and usually does, and it's about the ability to pull people in, help them see what you want to do, and really get on board to help you out with it, because it takes a whole team. From founders are just the start of the team, really, but you have to be able to sell that connection and obsession to others, and that needs to show in the application process.
That's awesome. Is there maybe any other way to, because I mean, pre-COVID, typically maybe you could go to an event or run into someone to try to make even more of like that kind of that personal connection to have a better chance or a better conversation around it. Have you seen founders trying to reach out now kind of individually, maybe through social media or through LinkedIn, to try to have those type of conversations? And how effective has that been? Or is it more very much driven through just the application process?
I think it's effective. I think it's effective and important for startups to show that initiative. And there's obviously a fine line between, reaching out and trying to make a connection versus, a little too much, a little over the top. But, I think that even in just the application process, if you're not actively looking at whether it's the Long Beach Accelerator or any other accelerator or source of funding, if you're not actively trying to understand what that accelerator can do to add value to your company, then and you're not showing that you understand what they do best in your application, then that creates less of a connection. So it's really, can be part of the application process itself, even remotely, even without that in-person connection. It's showing that understanding of what the value is we can add, because we want to add value to you, and if we can't, there's no point on either side.
Yeah, no, I mean It's generally the main point kind of the accelerator. I feel like a lot of people forget that it's your entire focus is to kind of take those startups to the next level through the program, through the conversations. So yeah, very cool. Let's talk about maybe some of the challenges that founders are going to run into early on. So your goal is to add value and to maybe help them not make some of these mistakes. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that founders end up making kind of very early on?
I'd say number one on that list is spending too much money on building a product before they understand the market. There are really so many tools now out there that make it very inexpensive to do your market research and MVPs. That it's a mistake, I think, to hire any sort of software team, even if it's offshored, before you really understand your market and what you need to build. Yeah, it's, one thing of personal note is that it's important to soul search in if you're in the software industry to see if you're a software company, or not, and if that bespoke software element is really necessary. If you're a services company enabled by software, then maybe you can ultimately get by, at least for a while, with all of those different tools that are out there. And of course, that's somewhat different if you're in hardware, for example, in bio and pharma. But I think that is the main thing. Runway is so important, and spending money before and building a product before you understand the market is going to really reduce two kinds of runways, not just financial runway, but also you have a certain amount of go in you as an entrepreneur, and the longer it takes to get that MVP up and running, and the more that you have to redo your product, the more soul it sucks out of you. So let's conserve that as well.
You hit on a lot of very good points within that. Very much a believer in the testing the market prior to building something. I see way too many entrepreneurs that are like, I just need $50,000 or $100,000 and I'm going to build my product. And then we're going to get it off the market and it's going to just go gangbusters. I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, it's absolutely not how it works. It's tough to try to have those conversations with those founders. It's like, look, there are so many other ways to go about it, attempting this to find your kind of niche in your beachhead market, to be able to then expand out, and you can test a lot of your theories very inexpensively, like very, very inexpensively. Even something like hardware. I've seen companies run Kickstarter campaigns that help validate that success, to be like, okay, look, we pulled in 150K off Kickstarter for people who are willing to be early adopters and try this out, even though we didn't even have a product. And so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Kickstarter is a really interesting tool from that perspective, almost different than what most people think of it as. Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting proof of concept strategy.
No, I think it's one of the best ways to be able to test the market. And then if you're in a services industry, I tell founders this all the time. I'm like, just throw up a website. Throw up a website and put a place where you can put in, have a customer put in a credit card, and just do a pre-order and see if you can actually get stuff going. And if people are willing to actually put down a credit card, like you have a potential product that you can build on from there. But I feel like there's a lot of just too many. I don't know. We get so from the academic standpoint, the business model canvas stuff. We've been going round and round with a couple of people just around this idea of the entire business model canvas can be done literally through a website that you send out to see. Like instead of spending months to do it, like, look, I don't know. Let me just test it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, show me your wireframes and then let's get an offshore dev team and get this going.
Oh gosh. Awesome. Well, yeah, no, very good points from you, especially on some of the biggest challenges that they face. What are maybe some of the reasons that you ultimately actually end up seeing them fail? You have a lot of experience in the ecosystem, so what are some of the reasons that they just kind of didn't make it there? I mean, we talked a little bit about the product orientation or building a product before having an actual market, but maybe what are some of the other challenges?
Yeah, I think another big one is that you have the wrong team and the team doesn't learn quickly enough. And that includes the wrong team around the founders, such as investors, mentors, et cetera. A company really has to understand the connections between so many disparate business building pieces, and all of them have to be aligned and quickly. Because like I mentioned before, what happens is a team runs out of steam, and that's, moving quickly but with purpose matters. It will take 3 to 5 years really to begin to see real traction, sort of MVP aside. But most founders will have at best 2 years of runway, sort of mentally and financially. And how do you bridge that gap? Do you have the tenacity to hang on with your fingernails, to assess your burn rate, to adjust, to stay motivated, to do the grind if you don't get funded, those sorts of things?
I think that's another very good point, just especially on the timing, that I don't think a lot of people realize how long the actual startup cycle takes, even if you are successful. That it's not like it's a quick couple year type of thing. Like it is a long grind that you have to be prepared for. I mean, I know founders that I think they just raised like $100 million. He's been doing it for like 7 years, and he's like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I've been doing this for 7 years. Sure, like very fortunate to have success, but I am exhausted. Like, I gotta get off this treadmill. And I don't think that a lot of founders like think through the time that this is going to take, because especially I think the younger generations will jump through a round of jobs a lot more often than our predecessors, and they don't understand that a startup is not a quick kind of couple year run through. So I think it's
yeah. No, I think I don't know if you saw the article that the founder of Barometrics just put out. I think that's a really interesting one, because it's exactly, it seems, where he was at with the company 7 years in, in revenue, profitable, and just out of steam, and sold the company.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's at a certain point you have to get out one way or the other, and so no, very true. So let's jump back into one of your earlier points with the team. So surrounding the team with good people. What is kind of the ideal team, and what are some of maybe the issues that you see running through within the actual team, like maybe co-founder conflicts, or where those might end up arising?
Yeah, I mean, the team is, like you say, it's crucial, and I think we don't necessarily see different problems with team members than we typically see in a business, or your team members in life, really. It could be obstinance, it could be hesitance, it could be blind spots, insecurity, low EQ. or a tendency to focus on what we know and like best.
Mm-hmm.
But for founders of companies, those characteristics are on display for all to see. It took me a long time to sort of learn that's what it means when somebody says you're putting yourself out there, right? You're putting yourself out there, and everything that you say and do has the potential to be amplified. And that can have positive and negative consequences. But of course, if you know you have negative characteristics, you're going to underperform relative to potential. So I think having a proactive practice of reflection, feedback, good communication, self-care, and conscious habit forming are essential. And making sure that all of your team members are engaged and engaging actively, doing team building stuff. You know, it's really important to step back from the product building, the business building, to just connecting with your team.
I think it's a really good couple great points in there. So I think one of my favorites is the reflection piece, simply because founders are constantly on that grind, that the mouse wheel, the treadmill, whatever you want to call it, and taking that kind of time to reflect and take like a day or two and just breathe, because I feel like, especially as founders, that a lot of it gives you time to digest all of the information you've kind of run through, and it can spur new ideas that maybe you wouldn't have thought through if you didn't take that kind of pause. I really like the team building stuff, because it's a challenge, I think, sometimes with some founders, in that if they haven't maybe worked at maybe a large corporate before, they haven't been through this before, that it's hard to understand kind of the hierarchy and how to get people to buy into the idea of the team and working together and servant leadership and all of that fun stuff. And so doing team building exercises and bringing them closer will actually increase your productivity, even if you take a day or two out to actually go and do it. So that's not something that I hear very often, but it's a very good point.
And it's important always, but it's even more important now, where we're all online, and you can tend to get very transactional with people, and it's really important to see your team as humans. It's very,
especially right now. I think my other favorite kind of point in there was something that's not talked about a lot, because who is publicized constantly are the people who have low EQ, because they're probably more entertaining to watch. But founders with high, it's just kind of the way that it works. And so founders with high EQ, I don't think that it's talked about enough, even going back, especially to the team building pieces, and having reflection on even building that team, because it's like it's the ability to recognize where their shortcomings might be, and not being defensive about it or being threatened by it, but more like, hey, this is a place I'm missing. I need to fill this gap. How do I actually fill that? So being more problem solving and forward thinking than kind of trying to hide deficiencies. So I think that's another very good point. Awesome. So startup landscape. So obviously it's changed a little bit in the last year. Future work, obviously, and ed tech definitely got a boost here in the last call it 9 months. But because it's shifted so much, what are maybe some of the places that you're kind of excited about looking at right now? Where do you think the kind of next wave is going to come from?
Yeah, I'm really fired up about the remote learning, as you said, ed tech, in the sense that we have a great ability to pull entrepreneurs in who have typically been at a disadvantage, whether that's demographically, geographically, whatever, and not just entrepreneurs, but other resources we can now pull globally, and we always have been able to, but since it's a necessity now, that's just sort of front and center. And so we can source and learn and teach and build and sell from anywhere, at least to start, at least, at least in part. So we're able to uncover and amplify new ideas that help build important things. And the builders of our future really need to reflect on diversity in our world in order to sort of fully consider and be proactive about both the potential and the ramifications of our innovations. So, the wonderful part about this is, sort of pragmatically and statistically, this all creates better performance for companies and ultimately our world.
Nice. Yeah. No, it's very exciting. It's honestly where we need to go. So I guess jumping in off of that, venture capital has been changing, and it will always continue to evolve. It's just kind of the way that it works, because we live in the wild, wild west where there are really no rules. We just kind of make it up as we go, which is a wild notion. But how do you see it continuing to evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, I love the Wild West analogy. It's a space that I really like, actually. So yeah, but I'm a hopeful person. So I absolutely do see more inclusivity, even if our current trends are quite uneven and even abysmal in an absolute way. Excuse me. So what I see though is a massive consolidation at the VC and accelerator level, driven by sort of the market dynamics of performance and returns. And I also see better access at the lower end of the VC food chain. Angels will have better options, I think, and risk reducing diversification through online marketplaces and changing regulations, even leading to better liquidity, which will lead to better a virtuous cycle, sort of more capital. I think, excuse me, there are so many angels on the sidelines right now because they've tried to put money into angel investing, and it hasn't worked out for them because they're doing it in a way that doesn't necessarily adhere to the best practices of investing. And so there are a lot of them investing in their own backyards. They're investing in 1 to 3 companies per year. Is just really, I always say, is a statistical recipe to fail in early stage investing. So so I see new tools and new approaches enabling better angel investing, more successful angel investing, and more capital coming into the early stage end of the market, and sort of reversing that trend of the last few years of going up market, really.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting point. That I feel like everyone's kind of moved up market from kind of the early stage standpoint, and then what's kind of filled that market has been the incubators, the accelerators, the new venture studio model, which is I've seen more venture studios pop up in the last year and a half than I can even count.
And that's the good thing. At least there's something filling the void a bit. Although the rounds for incubators and accelerators are smaller than typical angel rounds. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's very true. So let's switch gears a little bit. So let's go back to the idea of maybe on the other side of the table. So what should founders be? So a founder is looking to jump into an incubator or accelerator, maybe take on investment. what should they be looking for with bringing on a potential investor?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is very similar, whether it's, they're at the accelerator level or the VC stage. Although initially, if you're at the accelerator level, I think most companies, most startups can gain something from an accelerator. Just because you're a small team, you can't know everything, and there are so many things to know about building a business and a tech product. So on the VC side, I don't think that VC is the answer for most entrepreneurs, especially up front. I think bootstrapping is a viable and valuable way to build, and realistically, that's the way that most entrepreneurs, the vast majority of entrepreneurs build. And I think that's not well understood by many entrepreneurs.
Not even a little bit. Everyone thinks that they have to go out and raise money, and it's like you could just try building it and just kind of scraping by, and if you get some traction, like, you keep going. And yeah, I agree with that sentiment very much.
Yeah, it's another piece of the pendulum that hopefully will start swinging back a little bit.
Yeah.
But to the point of your question specifically, I think it boils down to finding an accelerator or VC that has relevance to you and your product and market. An accelerator or VC that's shown that they are proactive about helping you. I come from an operator background, so I'm, I just think that advisors are great, but having somebody who's willing to roll up their sleeves and work in your business is worth a lot at the end of the day. And it doesn't have to be, sort of look like another co-founder necessarily, but somebody who's going to do some work for you and has shown that they will, and have a track record of working for entrepreneurs that they invest in.
Nice.
And then connection, I think, is the other one. So if you have to have personalities that mesh. Your work and energies have to be additive to each other. And if they're not, I think that's just going to burn a lot of time and energy for you both. So
that's something that
so those are yeah.
No, I like those. I especially like the last one, because I don't think it's talked about often enough. Is when you take an investment, it's like a marriage. Like, you're gonna be stuck with each other for a long time, and the likability factor of having someone on your cap table, like having horde people on your cap table, will suck. Like, it's years of just angst and unhappiness. And I really don't think people they see that kind of finish line. And the same thing happens with co-founders. They see the finish line, they're like, oh my god, I have one, I can bring them on my team. I'm drowning right now, and so someone's throwing me a life raft, all I want to do is grab it. But grabbing the wrong life raft will end up sinking you anyways. And to have the wherewithal to be like, no, this is not the right one, even though I'm literally drowning right now, can be tough, especially from that discipline standpoint. So I think you bring up a couple great points right there.
It's hard to have perspective when you're in the middle of something, and again, it goes back to the previous question of being able to really step back and reflect, and make those decisions very, very slowly.
Yeah. No, it's true. So appreciate that. Let's jump into a little bit more from the personal side. So now during COVID, or when we get out, now that we finally have fortunately a finish line of sometime next year, maybe early 2022, but have a finish line. How do you typically spend your day prior and or during and post COVID? Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think that far ahead. It does seem like it's a ways off yet, but I don't imagine my day-to-day changing all that much, but I do hope to get back to travel. Yeah, we'll be recruiting globally and all of that stuff, and you can do that, a lot of that online, but there's nothing like some face-to-face time. But anyway, yeah, my typical day is up at 5 o'clock or 5:30, get a little workout, some meditation in on my good days. Then I start breakfast and lunch for my 8-year-old. He's in a learning pod right now, which is really helpful. He sort of is able to help him not just be alone, and I love that. But still sort of limited kind of interaction with other kids outside of the learning pod. So at least he has that, and they lean on each other, and they're really getting close. So this has been a fantastic experience. In some ways, and I'm just going on a tangent here, but really an interesting supplement or alternative to typical school. I think there are a lot of positives that are coming out of that, and just learning and understanding where he's at with and what education means these days, as it's even changing quickly, has been fantastic for us to be more involved with as parents. But anyway, so after I get him lunch and all that good stuff, and off to the pod, then I start work. And since I'm building 2 companies right now, and
How busy at all?
and I'm the only staff member for one of them, I really have to heavily prioritize. I have to prioritize between the 2 companies, and I have to prioritize across the spectrum of wearing the many hats that startup founders do, from corporate development to networking to product and program development to board management, funding, so many things.
So you have loads of free time is what I'm hearing, like just a ton of free time to be able to just kind of hang about and do whatever you like.
I don't mind hanging out, but I don't like just hanging out much. I'm just one of those people that really likes to be busy.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that even if I could retire, wouldn't. And I don't know when I'll retire, if ever.
Yeah.
So it's good. It gets exhausting, of course. Like everyone else, I get discouraged, and then I have to pick myself up by my bootstraps and talk to those people who help keep me energized. And but yeah, on a day-to-day, I'm busy and happy.
Very nice. I think that's where the having good people around you come into play, with not just team members, but advisors, friends, having that support circle, because entrepreneurship is tough, to say the least.
Yeah, no, I think the supportive people in your life are important for everybody. We all rely on so many people to get anything done. We don't even realize it. Just so many things we just couldn't get done if we didn't have other people to help us out in big and small ways. And we have to 10x that for an entrepreneur who's trying to make their dent in the universe. So yeah, that's a really, really key piece of entrepreneurial life.
Yeah, very true. Well, on that note, Andrea, where can people reach you to get in contact? Where can they find your application? All of that fun stuff.
Yep. So you can reach me at the Accelerator, the Long Beach Accelerator. The application is at lbaccelerator.org, and you can reach me at Andrea at lbaccelerator.org.
Very nice to give out your email. Very
you know what? I think it's out there. I don't know. I think that anybody can get any information that they want anywhere, so might as well put it out there.
Well, truly appreciate you coming on the show. Look forward to a very successful first cohort here in 2021, and congratulations again on the launch.
I appreciate that, and yeah, I just appreciate our conversations very much. You have a lot to share, and I also want to plug Spark XYZ. I know I don't have to. Nobody asked me to do this. I'm not being paid for this, but it's been a great decision of the Long Beach accelerators to start using that, and we're really seeing some traction from it. So thank you.
Glad you enjoy it. Absolutely did not have to plug it, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Oh, God. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Look forward to having you on the show again sometime in the future, and congrats.
Thanks, Lucas. All right.